But is it evidence? Can it be used against Lori Vallow Daybell? Let's bring in our think tank tonight to talk about it. Joining us this evening from the Bronx in New York, criminal defense attorney Renee Hill. Also from New York, New York tonight, Corey Stern, trial attorney. And in Atlanta, Michael Bixon, great criminal defense attorney. All right, ladies first, Renee Hill. These statements, I can murder you, he's dead, there's a murder investigation in Gilbert, Arizona. I don't care what happens to the kids are missing. Can any of this be used against her?
Those statements are still, but they're really not that damning for her. And whether or not they can be used against her, I would say that they really can't. The first statement, I could kill you, it's not a dying declaration. It doesn't happen at the time of the incident. And we know that her brother is the one who killed him. And then he was cleared because they determined that it was self-defense. So I don't see that coming in.
He's dead.
At all.
He wasn't cleared.
He's dead.
He wasn't cleared.
Yes,
the investigation was continuing. And then he suddenly died.
He was cleared before he died. They took him into the police station. They questioned him. He said it was self-defense and they let him go.
They let him go, but the investigation continued. Corey Stern, can I use some of this stuff against a doomsday cult mom here?
I think presently you can use whatever you want, but those statements in and of themselves are not evidence of a crime. If they were to find, unfortunately, the bodies of the kids with some more circumstantial evidence or hard evidence, perhaps those statements would bolster the evidence against this woman or her husband. But, people say things all the time. Growing up as a kid, my mom used to run her and said, I'm going to kill you. If I had gone out and somehow
But you're alive,
killed,
Corey. You're alive.
That's fair. That's fair. But the statements in and of themselves are certainly not evidence of a crime. Unfortunately.
All right, Michael Bixon, what value do these statements have? To me, they explain a lot about Lori Vallow Daybell. But ultimately, there's an investigation into the shooting death of Charles Vallow that's continuing in Gilbert. And you've got the investigation into her missing children. Plus, she's got the trial for the desertion charges involving her children.
I don't think that this does a lot in terms of the murder case. What I do think it does is bring in a lot of background evidence about her, because now we have a deceased person, somebody who was close to her, talking about her mental instability. Her claiming she was a resurrected being. I mean, it's some pretty far out there stuff. And I think that it goes towards whether or not they're going to charge her with something else. Now, maybe, I don't think you could really be brought in a trial. I think they're going to have some serious legal difficulties with that. But in terms of whether or not they're actually going to charge her or deciding what they're going to do with their case, yeah, I think they're certainly going to take it into consideration.
All right, Renee, let's take it out of the courtroom for a second and just get to the truth, even though when we're in the courtroom, that's what we're supposed to be looking for, but sometimes the rules of evidence get in the way. Let's talk about what this tells us about Lori Vallow Daybell and what it may tell us about where JJ and Tylee are or what happened to them. What do these statements by Charles Vallow reveal to you?
It sounds to me like she is mentally unstable. There's certainly something wrong with her that needs to be explored if she's talking about being a god, if she's talking about being able to kill him or murder him with her own powers. There's something wrong with her, and she needs to be examined to determine exactly what is going on in her head. Does it tell us what could have happened to the kids? Not necessarily. She's saying in those statements she doesn't care, come and get them. She doesn't care what happens to them. But it doesn't really tell us what happened to them. If she gave them to someone, if she left them with someone, if she harmed them in any way. That statement is really not telling us anything.
Corey Stern, what happens if a client walks into your office? They've paid the retainer, okay? They've paid the retainer, so you're stuck with this client. And the client tells you, I'm God.
I mean, the statements that she's made may in fact help her, down the road, because she's so obviously a little bit loose in the brain that any crime that she may ultimately be charged with could easily be defended based on her mental state. based on her, her craziness. And so I would immediately hire a forensic psychologist to, get this woman evaluated and hopefully tell me that she's off her rocker, so that in the event she's end up being charged with anything, we'd be able to immediately say, we don't think that she's capable of a crime because her mental state wouldn't allow it.
All right, folks, I just want to remind you the countdown is continuing. I don't have the day count. We got to get a clock for this. The countdown to Lori Vallow's doomsday, which I believe is July 22nd. Okay? So that'll probably be our last show. So we should have a countdown clock. We'll get that next time we do the story. All right. When we come back, folks, there's a trial. I've been waiting for this one. I mean, the shooting took place 6 years ago. There's been a lot of litigation back and forth, but there's an argument in a movie theater about someone texting. Things escalate out of control. Popcorn goes flying, and a dad is shot and killed. That's next. Welcome back. One of the things that we're doing while all these courtrooms across America are closed for jury trials, there are other things happening in a limited fashion, but they're not bringing jurors down to courthouses for criminal jury trials. It's just not happening. But what we're doing is taking a look at some of the trials that will happen once everything gets back to normal. And one of the cases that we're tracking is one I've personally been tracking for 6 years now. It is from Florida. It involves a movie theater. There's a man there with his wife, and there's another man there with his wife, and one man is texting, the other man complains about it. Things escalate out of control, and a father of some young children shot and killed inside the theater. Julie Grant has a preview of the trial.
It's been 6 years since a cell phone, popcorn, and a pistol permanently changed the lives of a small family in suburban Tampa, Florida. Chad Olson loved spending time with his wife, Nicole, and their 22-month-old baby girl, Alexis. Friends and family say Olson was a genuine, funny, go-getter type of guy. On January 13th, 2014, Chad and Nicole Olson were sitting in a theater waiting for a movie to start. And as the previews were rolling, Chad was on his phone, texting their babysitter to check on baby Alexis. This security video shows the man sitting behind them, Curtis Reeves, objecting to Chad using his phone, and the two start arguing. Then Reeves went to complain to the management. Here's Nicole Olson recalling Reeves' demeanor that night.
I see you've put your phone away now that I went to get management. I remember feeling this should have been over. He's got what he wanted. Why is he still doing the, ha-ha, you did what I told you, I won? That's kind of how it felt to me.
Witnesses told police that the argument continued when Reeves returned to his seat. In a recorded audio police interview, Nicole describes what happened next.
My husband said, dude, what's your problem? I wasn't making any noise. The movie hasn't even started, and that's all I remember.
Then the argument went from loud to lethal. Reeves, a retired Tampa police captain, claims he feared for his life after Nicole's husband threw a bag of popcorn at him. In his police interview, Reeves said Olson stood up and hit him in the face with an unknown object. Let's watch that again, slowed down. You can see what looks like Olson's arm make a very quick motion toward Reeves. Here's how Reeves remembers the incident.
Get out of my face. I'm leaning all the way back in my chair as far as I can to get away from him, and suddenly he's virtually on top of me. And I think I'm saying either no, 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 or whoa, whoa, whoa. Suddenly my head was to the right, so he hit me with something.
And that's when Reeves pulled his pistol from his pocket and fired one shot at Olson.
I did not see him pull it out, and I did not see him shoot it. I just saw the spark and heard the noise.
43-year-old Chad Olson was taken to the hospital where he later died. Curtis Reeves was charged with second-degree murder. He says he shot in self-defense. At a hearing in 2017, Reeves' attorney tried to prove that this was a stand-your-ground case. The controversial Florida law allows people to use deadly force when they fear death or personal bodily harm.
A 6'4" individual standing, trying to come over that chair is terrifying.
But the judge ruled that the stand-your-ground defense does not apply in this case.
If I had it to do over again, it would never have happened.
It's too late for regrets. Now, the 76-year-old Curtis Reeves is set to go on trial in October for second-degree murder.
All right, so this is a case where they're going to say self-defense. He was coming at me with the popcorn, but apparently Curtis Reeves saying he didn't know what it was, and he was scared for his life. Let's bring back in our think tank. Michael Bixon, it was popcorn. There was a row of chairs in between them. As a matter of fact, from the video, you can see that the victim doesn't climb over. He's still in his row. He's sitting in his chair. Does this sound like justifiable homicide?
No. I mean, look, Florida has a stand your ground law, but this is not what it's intended for. You need some type of reasonable belief of an imminent bodily harm or death, something like that. Getting popcorn thrown in your face or somebody turning around and shouting at you, even if they're touching you, it's not that case. I mean, if the guy had a knife, if he had a gun, that's totally different, but that's not what this law is intended for. This seems like a bad mixture of adrenaline, fight or flight, and a handgun in the wrong setting.
Renee Hill, what do you see when you see that video? And I know it's kind of grainy. We see that arm come out, and that must be the popcorn that is flying right there. But I don't see anybody climbing over a chair trying to attack Curtis Reeves.
Right. I don't see that at all. You definitely don't see the victim in this case climbing over the chair. What I see is the popcorn flying. You don't even see contact from. It's very hard to see if his hands actually hit the defendant in the face. You see the popcorn fly, even with the graininess of the video, and you don't see what the defendant describes in his interview.
Corey Stern, this defendant has testified before. He's a retired police captain. I'm sure he testified many times during his career and may have had a great career as a police officer. What do you see when you look at that video?
I agree with the other panelists to some extent, but the reality is that when you impanel a jury and you're asking them to essentially take away someone's liberty, their freedom, and someone of his age would likely spend and the rest of his life and die in jail, that's a very, very, very hard thing for a jury to unanimously agree to. And if there's any hint that this individual felt attacked, and that's evidenced by the video. And listen, the video is grainy; it's not super clear, but there's definitely an image of the defendant, very quickly jerking backward and what appears to be something coming at his face. I agree that that's not what the statute was created for. It's not why it passed. But it wouldn't shock me in this situation if a jury looking at a 76-year-old decorated police officer who appears to be truthful on the stand, either because he is or because of all the time he's been on the stand before, testifies that he genuinely felt like he was in fear for his life. I could see a jury acquitting him of these charges.
I want you to hear some other evidence in this case, or what prosecutors want to put in front of this jury. And it seems that this man, Curtis Reeves, was a retired police captain who had now taken up a new job as being the theater texting police. Take a listen.
On December 28th of 2013, she was at the Cobb movie theater when she was confronted by the defendant for texting. She felt very uncomfortable about it and indicated that he was glaring at her the entire time throughout the movie and afterwards. She felt very uncomfortable with this.
And that is a third party?
I'm sorry?
A third party who may have responded to news?
Yes, Judge. And he also followed her to the bathroom when she had gotten up to go to the restroom and made her feel very uncomfortable.
Renee Hill, I see a little bit of a pattern here. I know it's only two, but
Yeah.
I mean, how many people get this upset about texting in a theater that you're following someone to the bathroom?
Exactly. And, he appears to be the aggressor here. He was the aggressor in both situations. And it does create a pattern to show that he is engaging in conduct that is, provoking people to cause these altercations. And why is he bringing a gun into a movie theater? and then provoking an altercation with people.
It's Florida. It's Florida. I'm sure.
I know, and they can
licensed to
carry. Right. And
All
they
right.
need to rethink that.
That's another discussion, maybe for a different network.
For a different network,
may do that
a
one
different
day
time. That's fine.
Yeah, exactly. All right, when we come back, folks, we got another story brewing out in Colorado. Another mom goes missing. Another mom is missing in Colorado. And her husband has been out front posting a video on social media and wants the kidnappers to return her. But is there any evidence that she's actually been kidnapped? We'll talk about that next.
I think everybody's got their eyes and ears open at this time and are wanting to see her return safely.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Julia Janae with your Court TV news break. We're starting with this just into our newsroom in the case of baby Evelyn. A grand jury has indicted Megan Boswell on 11 counts of false report. This stems from December, the disappearance of Boswell's 15-month-old daughter, Evelyn Boswell. The mother is still being held in the Sullivan County Jail on a $150,000 bond. She was up until this point facing just one count of false report. That grand jury indictment accuses her of lying to detectives on multiple occasions in February when they were searching for the toddler. Baby Evelyn's body was located March 6th. No one has been charged in her death. And prosecutors in Missouri are launching an investigation into the arrest of a mom and her adult son caught on tape at Sam's Club. This investigation into Marvia and Derek Gray's arrest follows her lawsuit against 4 officers that was filed a few days ago. According to the complaint, Derek Gray was falsely accused of stealing a television after he purchased it from the store, and the store agreed to hold it because it wouldn't fit in his SUV. When he tried to return it, Derek says this altercation happened with several officers, and despite him having a receipt for that TV. Police say they were notified about a theft in progress, and when they tried to detain the Grays, Derek struggled with them and attempted to remove a fire extinguisher from the wall. Marvia Gray was charged with interfering with an officer and resisting arrest. Derek Gray was taken into custody but was not charged. And nearly 20 years later, the only man ever convicted in a U.S. court for his role in the September 11th attacks is renouncing his loyalties. Zacharias Moussaoui is serving a life sentence in Colorado. Prosecutors said he lied to the FBI and knew the terror attacks were being planned. Moussaoui has been defiant since his jury trial, where he swore allegiance to Osama bin Laden and al-Qaeda. And in a recent court motion, he now denounces the deceased bin Laden, terrorism, and the Islamic State. He says he wants to warn others about the deception of fake jihadis. His case is currently on appeal. That's it for your Court TV News Break. Vinny, back to you.
Julie Janae, big news involving Megan Boswell, but still no arrest for the murder of a little baby Evelyn.
That's correct. No arrest, and they also have not revealed exactly how the baby died and whether or not that is something that they are looking into as far as her mother and also the grandmother, who has been facing charges that are unrelated to this case.
Julie Janae, thank you so much. All right, we got a story out in Colorado, and this is a pattern we've seen before. We've had other missing moms that have resulted in murder cases, but this one is just a missing mom at this point. She's not been found. She vanished, ironically, on Mother's Day. Ted Rollins has the latest.
Oh, Suzanne, if anyone is out there that can hear this, that has you,
Barry Morphew is pleading for his wife Suzanne's safe return in a new video released this week.
please, we'll do whatever it takes to bring you back. We love you, we miss you, your girls need you.
49-year-old Suzanne Morphew was last seen on Mother's Day. She went for a ride on her bike and never returned home. Since then, friends and family have joined authorities in their search for the mother of 2.
Obviously, as time goes by, it gives us concern, but we're searching as though she's alive, and we do believe she could still be alive.
The Morphews live in Maysville, Colorado, a rural area about 2 hours west of Colorado Springs. The family relocated from Indiana in 2018. Husband Barry has told investigators that he was in Denver, 150 miles away at the time Suzanne went missing. Search teams have spent the last week combing miles of rugged terrain looking for any sign of the missing mom.
We've run foot searches using air support, canine support, swift water support, and we've also utilized countless hours of drone searches. We've used well over 200 personnel, and over 2,000 man-hours have gone into this search.
It's just very concerning. I mean, we do have a lot of wildlife in the area, so it's concerning that she's been gone for so long now. But we're praying.
The mountain trails themselves seem like they're pretty safe and everything, so it just makes me wonder about the wildlife.
Last week, investigators found what they're calling personal items belonging to Suzanne, which refocused the search to a specific area of Chaffee County. But they've made no further progress. The FBI has been brought in to help with the investigation. During a recent news conference, the local sheriff was asked about husband Barry and his level of cooperation. Listen to the response.
Yes, he's been cooperative to this point. We hope he continues to do so.
Barry Morphew, a business owner and volunteer firefighter, has put up $100,000 in reward money. A family friend's match raised the reward to $200,000 for information leading to Suzanne Morphew's safe return.
No questions asked. However much they want, I will do whatever it takes to get you back. Honey, I love you, and I want you back so bad.
And that's Barry Morphew, and that's something that he and his family posted on social media. It's got the number for the FBI to call with information, but making his plea there, and appears sincere, is cooperating with investigators, but did say and seem to indicate that he thinks that she's been abducted, saying, hey, listen, no questions asked, and whatever it takes, we just want her back safely. Let me bring back in my think tank on this one, and right now, still missing persons. We don't know what happened here. But Corey Stern, I'm wondering why, Barry, you think it's wishful thinking that she's alive and being held by someone, so maybe I can convince them to release her, that would be best case scenario, because some of these other potential scenarios would not be good?
I think it's a little early to make any assumptions about why her husband, said what he said regarding whatever it takes to bring you back, almost pleading to these captors potentially. If my wife had gone missing, I have no idea what my state of mind would be. We have 2 young kids. And so there's nothing there yet that indicates that he has anything to do with this, or, that his statement is anything but, an aggrieved husband who's, considering every option as to where his wife is. It doesn't mean that in 20 minutes or 20 hours or 20 days, it doesn't turn out that something fishy is going on. It's odd to me, although not unfathomable, that a husband whose wife was celebrating Mother's Day with what appears to be 2 children who must be of some young age, considering that they're both in their 40s. I'm not sure why he wouldn't have been there with the family. It's a little bit odd, maybe more than a little bit odd, the way he pled to what appear to be these imaginary or real captors. But we always assume the worst anytime something like this happens. There was a hiker in Hawaii about a year ago who was lost for, I think what turned out to be 7 to 8 days, and turned up alive, and people were very happy. And I remember thinking, because the media reported that, maybe her boyfriend had something to do with it, who she lived with, and he was pleading for her return and offering a reward and helping the folks try and find her. And it seemed just, too kind and too convenient. And it turned out that she really got lost in a hike. So, we shouldn't rush to judgment. Anything's possible. A bit imaginative, considering the fact that she was on a bike ride, that she would have been kidnapped by anybody. But who knows? Who knows? And only time, as the cliche says, will tell.
Michael Bixon, Mountain Trails is where she was. A couple of personal items have been recovered. We know that at some point they cordoned off the house and were searching the home as well. But there's been cooperation, but we still don't know. I mean, it seems like any possibility at this point.
I mean, it really could be anything from her actually, just leaving on her own, her being kidnapped, an animal attack, whether or not the husband is involved in something. And part of the problem is that we don't have any other evidence other than her just going missing. We know that some type of personal items were found on the trail that belonged to her, but what even those were and what connection that has to her disappearance, we don't know. So at this point, unfortunately, we're sort of working from a lack of knowledge other than she's missing. And that in and of itself, you certainly want to hope for the best and hope for her safe return. And I certainly understand that her husband, at least in this video that he put out there, is obviously pleading for that to happen. But, whether or not there was some other factor or something else happened, we just don't have enough information at this point, unfortunately.
Renee Hill, let me ask you something. Mm-hmm. And we don't know anything here, but let's presume Barry Morphew has nothing to do with this, has absolutely nothing to do with this, yet he's being investigated, okay? Because they're going to investigate everything. That's what they're going to do. But he has nothing to do with it. Should he have a lawyer?
Yes, he should. First of all, the husband, the spouse, the significant other in cases like this are always going to be looked at as the first suspects. They're going to check into his alibi. He says that he was, not at home at the time, that he was 150 miles away. They're going to look into that to see where he was. And he's being cooperative and he's giving them that information. But it is certainly not a bad idea for him to have counsel for those reasons, because he will be deemed a suspect at some point. He may not be deemed a suspect right now because they really don't have any more information other than the fact that she's missing. There's no information that there was a problem in the marriage, that there was anything going on between them that would give cause to think that he would do harm to her in any way. But it could become an issue later on down the line. So should he at least speak with counsel? Absolutely. He certainly should have counsel at this time.
I'm always fascinated by that question because, people say, well, if you're innocent, you don't need an attorney. But sometimes we see innocent people get accused of things and innocent people, get investigated as well. I mean,
innocent people are
investigated here
all the time. And it doesn't hurt to have counsel on your side to speak on your behalf, to navigate through those waters for you, because things can be taken out of context. When you're speaking to an investigator, people get nervous. They may say something that is really innocent in what they're saying, but it could be deemed to be something else, and it could blow up into an entire, investigation. And before you know it, you're being
situation
charged.
where we don't need one. Absolutely. All right. When we come back, folks, we're going to take a look at the Ahmaud Arbery case and really focus in on what happened before the video, right? We see the video picks him up as he's running, but how did he get there? We're going to take a closer look at that and your reaction. The 13th juror speaks next.
Police reports, 911 calls, and video help piece together some of what happened in the moments leading up to the fatal shooting of Ahmaud Arbery on the afternoon of February 23rd. Footage secured by the Atlanta Journal-Constitution offers a view from 219 Satilla Drive near the city of Brunswick, Georgia. It is recording when Arbery is first walking up the street around 1 p.m. He walks into the yard at 220 Satilla, a house under construction across the street. At 1:08 p.m., security cameras capture Arbery walking around inside the house under construction. Then a neighbor walking on Jones Road towards Satilla sees him and calls 911.
Okay. Breakers out here. There's a guy in the house right now. It's a house under construction.
Okay, do you have your address or that house's address?
Right at 219 or 220 Satilla Drive. And he's been caught on the camera a bunch before at night. Kind of an ongoing thing out here.
And you said it was a male in a black t-shirt?
A white t-shirt. Black guy, white t-shirt.
Several times before February 23rd, trespassers were caught on camera at the same construction site, and on 4 occasions, a man resembling Arbery is seen walking around. The site's owner says nothing was ever damaged or stolen, including the afternoon of February 23rd. On the afternoon of the shooting, Arbery remained in the house about 4 minutes. He then leaves and runs off.
And he's running right now. There he goes right now.
Okay, what is he doing?
He's running down the street.
Travis McMichael lives at 230 Satilla Street. At 1:10 p.m., he and his father Gregory grab their guns, jump into a white pickup truck, and pursue Arbery. There's no video at this point showing what happens in the next 3 minutes, but we do have a version of events from police statements taken from Gregory McMichael and witness Roddy Bryan. According to those statements, the McMichaels follow Arbery onto Burford Road. Passing Roddy Bryan's house, he sees the pursuit and joins in. The McMichaels try to cut Arbery off, but he doubles back and passes them. Bryan tries to block Arbery, but Arbery passes him as well and runs towards Holmes Road. Gregory McMichael told police he jumped into the bed of the truck armed with a handgun as his son Travis continued to drive to Holmes Road. At one point, the pursuit continues back up Holmes Road. At 1:14, Roddy Bryan is recording Arbery as he runs away from him and towards the McMichaels' truck. What happens next are the final moments of Arbery's life. Just before that, Gregory McMichael calls 911.
911, what's the address of your emergency?
I'm out here at Satilla Shores. There's a black male running down the street.
Satilla, where at Satilla Shores?
I don't know what street we're on. Stop right there! Is it? Stop! Travis!
Sir, hello, sir. Sir, where you at?
So today on Facebook, I posted and asking people, what do you think is happening before that video starts rolling, the video that we've all seen? What do you think happens during this pursuit or chase or however you want to term it? And we begin with our comment of the day tonight coming from Tosh. I don't know if it's 2.0 or not. That's been my question too. Where is the proof that they were following him? I assume that all who were involved, the 911 caller, the one videoing, the neighbor that was standing by the tree walking down towards McMichaels and the McMichaels, were all communicating to catch the guy, excluding the owner of the new construction. I had assumed that the McMichaels were parked there waiting for him on his path. It seems to be a game of cat and mouse with a bunch of cats. Renee Hill, a bunch of cats. Only 2 people have been charged. Roddy Bryan is a witness right now. Do you think at any point Roddy Bryan, the man who's recording the video, could be charged with anything here?
He could possibly be charged as an accessory somehow in this case, because why is he filming this? Why is he in pursuit behind the McMichaels individuals here? There is so much going on here with the video, and we know that there's other video now. They're chasing him. He's obviously trying to get away from them. Ahmad is. So could Mr. Bryan be charged? I think there is a potential for him to be charged as an accessory.
Mickey writes tonight, I believe they saw him, called Roddy, and said, get this on tape. We finally got him. Again, I just point out that Roddy Bryan and his attorney say there was never any communication there. They thought it was going to be justified, and the tape showed a completely different story. I believe they'd been waiting for him to show up in the neighborhood jogging again, and they were locked and loaded. Michael Bixon, are you surprised that the video was leaked by the defendants in this case? They believed that it would help them. It would justify what happened.
I am. I mean, I don't think that it helps. From what I saw, this looks like a hunt. This doesn't look like any form of real justice. This looks like people taking the law into their own hands and going, forming a posse and going on a hunt. If I were the defendant, I absolutely would not want this released. Absolutely not.
Danielle tonight writes, it just stinks because it seems like Ahmad was being followed and set up by those guys. I don't think any videos will help the defense because it looks like Ahmad was just running. He wasn't attacking anyone or stealing anything or doing anything wrong when he was killed. I'll be interested to see what else comes out, but so far it looks really bad for the person videoing and the McMichaels. Corey Stern, the defense and the family attorney for the Arbery's have said there are other videos. And some of these videos may show what happens in those 4 minutes between the time at the construction site and when the other video starts rolling. How important do you think that will be in this trial?
I mean, from what it appears, I don't really know what any new video would show. I mean, it certainly does appear to be a game of cat and mouse. My guess is that until the actual confrontation occurs, there's this chasing and dodging and dashing and backtracking and just trying to get away from these folks, and these folks trying to make sure that that he doesn't get away. It's clear that they're not necessarily thinking they're doing anything wrong because they're on the phone with the police twice during this entire encounter, once at the beginning and once near the end. It doesn't mean they haven't done something wrong, but it doesn't seem like a group that's being subversive or hiding, their attempts to catch this individual. Doesn't make it right. My guess is that in between time may be a whole lot of something about nothing. Really, the only thing that matters is they were in pursuit of him for a period of time and what happened once they caught up with one another.
Ryan writes, it doesn't matter what he did. He didn't deserve to die in the streets. If you make a citizen's arrest, you are not allowed to use deadly force unless someone's life is threatened, and almost getting the gun taken away from you that you brought is not self-defense. We'll give Ryan the final word here. Thank you so much to our incredible panel tonight. Michael Bixon, Renee Hill, Corey Stern. Great to have you with us tonight. Please come back on the program.
Thanks
for having me.
Thanks.